This is On The Wire, Racing TV's podcast for the best racing previews in association with Bar One Racing.
Yeah, you're welcome to On The Wire. We decided to get Aidan O'Brien on the show today, and literally half an hour before we decided to get him on, it was announced that St. Mark's Basilica was retired, with a quote from Aidan that he was the best horse to come out of Ballydoyle. So they're big words from Aidan, and absolutely delighted to have him on the show. Sponsored by Bar One Racing with John McDonnell and Fran Berry. And later on, we'll be looking ahead to the Arc, a little bit of Cork as well, and reflecting on two brilliant performances by two of Aidan's juveniles at the weekend. Aidan, St. Mark's Basilica, what a run you've had with him, what a career he's had, and what a career he might have at stud as well.
Yeah, no, thanks, Johnny. Listen, obviously we're very lucky to have him. Listen, he was a marvellous horse in every way. Listen, we were just so lucky to have him. And like I said, listen, he's probably the most important horse that we have retired since Galileo, obviously.
His improvement this year was astounding. I think you were on the record as saying that he had that unique ability to kind of cruise but quicken at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. He had what you really want in every horse. He was very relaxed. He was a very good mover, and he could quicken, and he was very determined. So he had all the qualities, I suppose, that you really want in a really good racehorse. Obviously, he was a very good 2-year-old. We thought he was a Coventry horse. He ended up winning the Jew horse at the end, and obviously, he was unbeaten since then.
You said he was, I think you're just reading the race post, you said he was possibly the best horse we have had in Ballydoyle, and they're not small words.
Yeah, no, I suppose, obviously, last year was the COVID era, so we kind of forced him along a bit as a 2-year-old, and we thought he was a Coventry horse, and he was just a little bit behind every slot that we were pushing him into all the time, but he got it. He got it all together, even though we were forcing him a little bit when he won the Jew horse. And obviously then what he did, a French Guineas, French Derby, Eclipse, Champion Stakes, so listen, he's an incredible horse, Johnny, and we all saw what he was able to do. And in any race, we were never worried about a pace. If they trotted, he was happy to walk. If they walked, he was happy to stand still, because I suppose we always knew, no matter what happened in the race, he wasn't going to get out sprinted anyway, because he had that electric turn of a foot, and he was real genuine, very determined.
Fran, that's what probably, I suppose, put him apart from other horses, to run the Forerunner Champion Stakes, and didn't really matter. He was the only horse going to the Champion Stakes where you weren't worried how it was going to be run.
No, definitely not. And no matter what speed they went into Champion Stakes, I think at that distance he was going to be very hard to beat, and he was. Obviously, Aidan, it's a shame that you won't have him to race next year. As you said, he's going to be a very important stallion. But for me, the couple of wins in France were quite taking. But I think he had a bit to show people in Ireland and England what he could do. And he went to the Eclipse, and he was very, very impressive on that occasion. For me, I thought that was his best performance for me. I just thought he put a lot of doubters to bed, if you like.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Fran. We pitched him in again, two world-class horses, obviously, and he was the same thing. If they were wanting to walk and sprint, he was happy to sit behind them. And you're absolutely right. That was the big test for him after winning the Guineas and the French Derby. So that's when you really saw what he was. No matter how slow they went, he was going to follow him, and we were always very confident that he would pick up whatever was in front of him. And there were two absolutely world-class older horses.
Do you feel there's a certain symmetry, Aidan, with his retirement in the year, I suppose, that Galileo passed away, because there is a big hole to be filled? I'm not saying he'll fill it, but he's going to stud now.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Johnny. Obviously, he's out of a Galileo mare, where he gets all his determination from, and his low action and his low head carriage, and he's getting the speed from Sayuni. But I suppose the brilliant thing about this horse is, even though he's out of a Galileo mare, the Galileo mares, to breed them two might be a bit close, but if there's one generation back, he'll be 100% perfect. The boss was saying that's where Snowfall would go, and when she'll go to stud, he'll go straight back to him. So he's very exciting, and obviously he's by Sayuni. So listen, it's something that we're very excited about.
You think, Aidan, that Fran would know all about this, but I think, Fran, that does clarify. You were a little bit worried yourself, Fran, about where the connotations were with Galileo and Sayuni and all that, but that clarifies it, Fran.
It does indeed. Yeah, I was interested, obviously, in you see the crossover in the breeding, and that's interesting. See the likes of Snowfall can visit a maiden, and obviously with the amount of Galileo progeny in there, to go have that option now must mean a lot to you.
Yeah, listen, it's only one generation, Fran. So like we feel if there's one generation between them, like he'll like being by Galileo, he'll be very happy going back, and then the extra Sione blood in there will make it very appealing. Really, we think.
What was he like temperamentally, Aidan?
Oh, he was super. Like never ever did we have a horse with such a temperament. Like he was an absolute Christian, mind of made of like absolutely concrete. Nothing bothered him in any way. In any race, he was happy to go along there, like on a loose rein, taking nothing out himself at any time. And that's the way he did everything through his whole everything he did. Relaxed, waiting to be told what to do. Like he had an unbelievable mind, really.
And this performance in the Eclipse we're just going to look at here, I'd argue it was, if not Snowfall's performance, this was the highlight of the year in some respects. This ability where he went from slightly being pushed along, Aidan, to putting the race to bed in a matter of strides. And just not only that, but the horses he was beating as well.
Yeah, no, and absolutely. When you see it, like Ryan was happy. He knew the lads were going steady in front, and he was happy to give them the 2 or 3 lengths. And when that happens, in like Fran will tell you in Sandown, when they start to quicken from three down in Sandown, not have to go in a strong gallop, it's very hard to catch horses up. And listen, it took him 2 strides to hit top gear, but when he hit top gear, like he eased past them and won very easily, really.
And I know you say this, but it must be a real privilege to have a horse like that. They just don't come along.
No, absolutely. Like I said, we haven't had anything like him. Like Fran will tell you how important the horse's mind is, and like he was like he the best mind that I think I've ever seen with a racehorse or a thoroughbred, and he had the ability to quicken, and he had the determination at the end of it, were are all traits that you can't find in horses, really.
And he lit up 2021, Johnny Mac.
Yeah, he was brilliant. Aidan, which performance was best for you? Which one did you like the most?
I know. I think what Fran said, he was very impressive in the French Guineas. He was very impressive in the French Derby. And when a 3-year-old meets older horses, that's when you're never sure, but that's when you measure them. And like he met 2 very serious old horses in Sandown. He gave them a head start. Like it was like as if like he felt that no matter what happened, he was going to pick them up. Like Ryan followed them in Sandown and didn't, like he was very happy to give them 2 or 3 lengths or 4 lengths when they started to quicken, and he was still very confident that he would pick them up, and he picked them up very early. Like halfway up the straight, he was in front, and he was waiting really.
As well as Snowfall, Aidan, I know, not without trying to preempt it, what mares conceivably could he be sent to in his sort of from the Coolmore stock, I suppose?
Sure, he'll be sent an awful lot of very serious mares, I would imagine. Like for a horse to retire with his profile and after doing what he did, and like I say, he's an outcross to so many of the mares. When there's one generation in between the Galileo mares, he would be sent like serious mares. When you hear the boss talking about sending Snowfall to him, like she's as serious a mare as anybody could send any stallion, really. And when he's talking about sending her to him already, listen, that'll just tell you the esteem that he's held in.
Yeah, and a mare that could certainly, you'd imagine, be sent to him down the line conceivably is Tenebrism. Aidan, this was an unbelievable performance on Saturday. You went on record after races saying that, I mean, she hadn't been seen. You're not talking about a small layoff here. She started off earlier on in the season. She was the most impressive Caravaggio at that time to have run, and it was a very exciting time for Caravaggio. Just looking at the screen here, she's probably about 100 to 1 from the position she was in. This was an extraordinary performance, all told.
Yeah, listen, it was impossible really to win from the way she was, but she did it in her maiden, Johnny. And like I suppose what people have to understand, for 2 months after her first run, she stood in the box. So that's 2 months. Like it's not. I thought it was an impossible task for her. Like obviously there was only one Cheveley Park, and we just felt, listen, we had to let her take her chance and see what she was going to do. Her work was exceptional at home, but she was a lot heavier and than she was at Naas, so that would suggest that she had a good bit to come. But like I say, her work was exceptional. Everything we'd asked her to do, she had done it like at total ease. So that was another worry, that she had never got tired at home. But obviously, as we see, like, it's just that she just has an exceptional amount of ability to be able to do what she did. And I think the times would suggest, seemingly, all the races in Newmarket, all the last furlongs, they were all slowing down, which happens in every race. But hers, by a long ways, she slowed down less in the last furlong than any other horse on the day, if you go through the times, which is a very unusual thing. So that would suggest that there's every chance that she's going to get 7. And if she gets 7 this year, there's every chance that she could get a mile next year.
And Fran, I know people don't say this about an easy winner maybe, but I thought this was a beautiful ride in the context of what Aidan is talking about here. This is a filly who's had a very interrupted year. She's only having her second start. You know, you're almost half trying to mind her, albeit it's a Group 1. But it cajoled her into the race, and an unbelievable turn of foot.
Very much so, and I suppose it was a ride and a plan, maybe more so with the future in mind, and I suppose you're going there after a length of time off, that you're just riding her to finish, and she duly did, and very impressive in doing so. Will that be the end of her for the year, Aidan? Will we just put her away till next year's Guineas?
Yeah, no, Fran is exactly like you said. Like, obviously, we had to give her a chance the first half of the race because we were worried about whether she would be fit enough to take part in a Group 1 like that. So obviously, when Ryan started to ask her to come from halfway, like, she really motored. And I think he only gave her one flick, and like, it was unbelievable. There would be a chance that she could go to America for the fillies race. So it's an easy mile in America. We would learn a lot about her for next year, and she would learn a lot. So there's every chance that she could go to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile on the grass. So, but we, I suppose, wait and see till she gets back into full work and see how she is really. But she seemed to be in good form this morning, and David rides her every day, seemed very happy with her this morning.
I guess she's, that speed by Caravaggio was evident in the final furlong. It's his first season with 2-year-olds, but she looks ultra exciting in terms of him as well, I suppose.
She does, yeah, and that's why he had when he was right on his day, like when he won the Coventry, and I think when he went back and won the Commonwealth, that's what he used to do. He used to relax and he used to quicken, like, obviously she can do it, and I suppose it's exciting for Caravaggio. Joseph's filly ran a series race in the Migler as well, so another Caravaggio filly. So listen, the signs are very, very, very good and very strong for him.
And we move on, obviously, from Galileo, but the horse that I've liked most of your 2-year-old brigade this season, Aidan, after the weekend, is Luxembourg. I don't know what it is about this horse, whether it's the manner about he goes about his business, his physique. He reminds me kind of a fella who's just woken up out of bed but goes out onto the pitch and destroys everyone. This performance at the weekend, I thought, was absolutely brilliant, and it was just beautiful to watch, I suppose, from your perspective in the Beresford.
Yeah, no, he was working like an exceptional horse before he went to Killarney. And Michael, like, obviously he went to Killarney without have been at any racecourse, being away, like, and Killarney is often not a straightforward place, and Michael just sat him in there and relaxed him and rode him like he couldn't get beat, and like he came forward lovely. And Seamus did the same thing in the Curry, just sat him in there. He didn't matter what they were going to do, whether they were going to go fast or go slow. Like, he is a very easy way of going through a race, and he's very relaxed, and when you ask him, he's able to quicken. So listen, he looks very exciting at the moment. But I suppose the good thing about him is he always showed that he was, like, very special in his work. So it's great to see him do it on the races. And I think he got a little flick to straighten him up, so he would have learned a little bit more than the first day. But he's not a horse probably needs to learn a lot anyway. He's just very natural. What
did you make of him physically, Fran?
Oh, it's very much a work in progress. Aidan, I was in the ring at the Curry, obviously, for Racing TV, and I just actually ended up back in Joseph's horse because I thought your horse physically looked very immature and has a long way to go in that regard, which can only be a good thing given how well he won.
Yeah, no, you're right, Fran. He's a big scopy horse and a beautiful quality, but, like, obviously is still very much a baby. And you would imagine, looking at him, a horse he's going to, like, really get stronger over the winter. But I suppose he's a lot of scope and a lot of quality.
Anyway, like his dad, in?
Yeah, he's probably a bigger horse than his dad. And probably he's more like his granddad than his dad. Camelot wasn't as big a horse. Was more of a 2-year-old. But this fella has probably more scope than Camelot, but Camelot had has unbelievable quality. So, and like obviously he was the only Montjew ever to win a Guineas Camelot, and then he was able to win a Derby as well. So they're very unique things to do.
Johnny Mack, surely we can talk of him as a potential Derby horse next year.
Yeah, he was mighty impressive. I thought even he looked quite green, and as the lad said, when Shamey gave him the flick of the stick, he just went right away from them. And he's around about, I think he's 10-1 now for the Derby. And Aidan, you tend to target the Beresford with good horses, don't you? You have a very good record in it.
Yeah, listen, we find Johnny that it's a lovely place to teach a horse. It's on a right-handed bend, so like obviously if he was going to be a Derby horse, he probably wouldn't end up going on a right-handed bend anymore until after. So it's a great education for him. The ground was beautiful, the colours are great track, and listen, they have to listen, and when you're riding patiently, they have to be able to pick up, and they have to have a bit of class to win a Beresford, and we've been very lucky to win the Beresford with some very good horses.
Just before you go in as well, we just look at the arc. It's interesting that we talk of all these good horses, and as much as Galileo has been a massive influence, we've talked about Caravaggio, we've talked about Camelot, we've talked about Sayuni, and now Deep Impact in Snowfall. How is she ahead of Sunday?
Good. Yeah, everything has been fine with her. The plan on going to Longchamp was that she would get a look at the track. We would get a look at how she would act and behave on the track, and that we wouldn't have to train her too hard for the arc if the ground got very bad here in this part of the world, which can happen sometimes up to the arc. But so the plan was just to give her an easy time, just to prime her for the arc rather than train her hard if everything went well in Longchamp. Obviously, we were very happy with the run. She got beat. I think she did the fastest last 6 furlongs in the race than any other horse, and she put in a 10-second furlong, her second last furlong. So that was serious clocking. There was 2 decent fillies, I think, in front, and the pace was slow. And Frankie just let her relax, and no, it was great, really. We found out a lot about her. Obviously, you always want to win, but often it cannot be a disadvantage if you get beat and learn rather than win and learn nothing, if you know what I mean. And it was an arc trial, and that's the way we were treating it. Like we hadn't been over hard on her, and the plan was to let her do the travel, go around the track, have the day at the races, and come back and then prime her. And so far everything looks right with her.
What do you make of that, Fran?
A 3-year-old filly with a record, I'd be prepared to forgive her the run the last day in Longchamp, and it's very interesting what Aidan says. Aidan, the last couple of weeks, the 2-year-olds have really come alive. It's obviously the time of year when them horses are bred for a bit of stamina, but it must be great to see the stable really rocking along now into the back end of the season.
Yeah, no, thanks, Fran. No, for 6 weeks or 2 months there, before they were running well, but they weren't winning. So like obviously when that was happening, everything was right. Like they were meeting all the parameters that everything were right to say that they were okay, but they just weren't winning. And when that happened, we just had to sit tight, go gentle, not to force them, and hopefully that they'd come back into form. And that's exactly what they did. Like we didn't over push, we didn't pull back too much. We just let them tick over. But now, like you're saying, Fran, I don't know how many winners we've had recently, but most of them have been 2-year-olds, and it looks like they're just coming back into nice form at the moment.
Yeah, you had a lovely horse by Churchill, the one in Punchestown, and I was very taken by him. Wayne Lorden won on him. He beat another horse of your own.
Yeah, listen, he's a lovely big horse, Fran. You're right. He's a massive big horse with a big long stride. We went there to educate him, and he ended up getting it together the second half and coming home and winning. Like, we will probably put him away and look forward to him next year. Like he's a massive horse with a massive stride. But like the second horse was a decent horse, and he ran him down and had him well on the line.
He did River Thames, of course. That was
Yeah, absolutely.
And what else are you looking forward to running in Longchamp, Aidan, before we go?
Well, the plan is to run Love at the moment, if the ground is not bad. And then the plan is to run Broom for our Japanese people. And then the filly Wounded Diane might run in the mile and a quarter fillies race there. And we just have to pick a 2-year-old for the 2-year-old races in the next few days. The filly Won and Go and the Galileo filly might go for the Busak, and like we just have to pick a colt then for the colts race. So that's what we're thinking at the moment. And we have a couple of runners on the Saturday. The horse that was fourth in the Ledger might go for the staying old or the staying 3-year-old race, and Willow might go for the staying fillies race, and Passion might go for the staying fillies race on the Saturday as well. So that's what we're thinking of at the moment.
It's not the worst job that you have.
I know. So listen, we'll keep trying, Johnny.
I'll have to let you in on a little secret. Dunica was actually the original guest on the show, but he turned us down on the basis that he was possibly coming home from the sales and wouldn't be there in time. So your son is trying to get better than you, I think.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay.
Thanks a million for your time, Aidan.
Yeah, pleasure, Johnny. Thanks everybody.
Thanks
Appreciate
a million.
it.
Thanks,
Fran.
Aidan.
See you everybody. See Johnny. See everyone. Bye.
That was Aidan O'Brien. Just so generous with his time, Fran, because I think he only replied around 5:20 because he's obviously had a big day with this and that. I thought that was a fascinating interview. I don't like bigging up interviews that you were parting yourself, but just talking about sectionals, talking about exonerating, obviously, Snowfall, the defeat the last day. And sounds like a man in good form ahead of the arc.
Oh, I think he'd been a lot better form the last 10 days than he would have been 6 weeks ago, as he said. You know, there was a time there in August where he did 2-year-olds. You didn't even give him a second look really in the market, because you're just running bang out of form. And it's amazing when the tide turns, and it was going to turn at some point, how it has turned and how dominant they've been in the last 10 days. So not unexpected, but I'd say going into Arc weekend and Champions Day in England, and of course Sun Chariot Day on Saturday. We never asked about Mother Earth actually, but it's it must be very pleasing for them, because you can have a bit of confidence there behind them now. Yeah,
and Johnny Mac, just it is interesting to notice how Galileo has actually, like, he's not been the influence in all these very good horses this year that you've just come to accept, and I guess it's a sign of the way things will be in the next few years as well.
Yeah, definitely, Johnny. But I really enjoyed the interview. Colin, nice and relaxed, and he was quite open with you there, and informative interview.
Of course, the biggest riding performance of the weekend was nothing to do with Ryan Moore and It's actually Johnny McDonnell, who took part in the Coast to Curra charity cycle along with me. I jinked left an unseated rider after the third. I got into a bit of a group with Paul Carberry. So this photo is Francis Crowley, and you might know the son's name, Fran, on the left.
Yeah, that's Paddy Smullen, one of Pat's kids. Yes, yeah.
And the youngest looking person in the photo is Kevin Manning to the right. I think Kevin has the ribbon there, Johnny Mac, is he?
Yeah, that's Kevin with the ribbon. It was a nice touch when we came in at the bottom entrance there. We waited about 10-15 minutes. They got Kevin out of the weigh room, and I think their daughter as well held the ribbon, and Francis led the group up the driveway then. It was really, really well done. And fair play to Gavin Lynch. They raised over 100,000 as well for Cancer Trials Ireland. Yeah, it was a fantastic day. As I said, Fran said Barry Geraghty and Paul Carberry came in. I was in Bellewstown as well earlier on, and one of the striking aspects of Bellewstown now is that Bartney Curley's, the phone box has actually become a real kind of tourist attraction. So when you go in there, as many people were taking a photo of the phone box in Bellewstown as anything else. There it is. I'm an unidentified rider on the left, but there is the phone box. And Frankie Dettori, Fran, will be in Bellewstown on Thursday, which I presume you, as a bit of an event junkie, will be joining as well.
I'll be in Clonmel looking at some crossover season jump racing. But great to see the lads over. I think I haven't seen the decks obviously tomorrow, but Frankie, Jamie Spencer, Shane Kelly, Tom Quealy is travelling. He's suspended. And hopefully raise plenty of money for the charity. And I tell you one thing, the lads will be good and sharp for Longchamp after riding Rebellious down on Thursday anyway.
I was talking to the piece with Frankie Friday, and I was going to ask him, did he know, like, where did it compare in terms of the tracks that he's ridden at? Because it is such a complex track, but less complex track. Fran, you never rode the straight 7 in Cork, but I think it's kind of been a bit of a revelation in Irish race, and obviously the only straight 7, but we've a good card there tomorrow. Any horses sort of take your fancy? Massive turnout for the feature listed race.
There is, and a really wide open listed race. Look, 8 race card, as you said, the furthest distance we go is a mile. The last 3 races are all over a mile. The listed race, the top horse, Jessica Harrington is going to be very popular. Bo Pedro on the back of a couple of his recent runs, particularly when winning at the Curragh, and he ran a superb race again, didn't he, at Leopardstown. Wide open race, Johnny. I'm very, very keen to see a filly of Joseph O'Brien's run in the race. Queenship, I thought she was ultra impressive when she won at Gorham Park off mark of 85. Now, that was in April. We haven't seen her since then, but she beat Elizabethine by 5 lengths, looking like a listed or group filly on that occasion. She's rated 96 now. Joseph, as he does, left Mikey Sheehy on, despite he can't claim his £5, and she's a good draw and stall too. She's the one that's open to most improvement in this race for me. The rest of them are all somewhat of an open book. The one thing to note about Cork, there's a lot of rain to come in tonight into tomorrow morning, and that could change things. And if it did, the likes of Laffy you want, and Alpelia will be very comfortable in soft ground. Geometrical was obviously ran a good race at the stole last week behind Visualization, but Queenship for me is the one that I'll be looking at most keenly in the race, but it's wide open and you can make a case for most of the field.
Yeah, while we're here, actually, before we'll get the arc betting from Johnny before we finish up, but we'll go for the naps, actually, starting with you, Fran.
My nap comes in race 1 tomorrow, 1:15 race. Pirate Jenny, very well backed on debut at Navan, and she got beaten a half length by HMS Seahorse, who had a run. The third Red Lacewing went on to win since then it at Naas, winning by a head, doing it in good style. And Pirate Jenny had to do all of her own running down the stand side to go and challenge HMS Endeavour, and nearly got there. Another half a furlong tomorrow, the benefit of a run. She's currently 13-8 actually in play in most places, and that'll do me.
Johnny Mack.
I am going to put Carlsberg, Johnny, in the fillies and mares handicap, albeit a lower grade for horses rated 45 to 65 last time. She got a £5 rise up to a mark of 70. She's trained by Shane Crawley, who did well with a filly Tartlet last year, and this filly's just having her 6th start. I think there could be more mileage in that mark, and Shamie Heffernan rides her again. He was on board for that win the last time. I think she could be hard to beat. Carlsberg.
I believe you were sweet on Carlsberg that day. So I'm going to go with River Derwent in the 4:35 at Cork. This is a horse Joseph O'Brien's improved a lot by Kingman. His performance the last day in Galway, he didn't break as well maybe as the front runner in the race, took it up and travelled great, just kind of worn down, but readily won the battle for second. He's gone up like £3 in the ratings. He's very, very unexposed, and he won at Leopardstown prior to that, and he's a lovely low draw tomorrow. There's a bit of a proviso about the ground, even though the dam handled it, and some of the siblings certainly handled it, but you'd imagine if Joseph O'Brien takes his chance, he'll be happy enough that he will handle the ground. We're going to finish up with the arc. Starting with you, Johnny Mack, actually, the betting on the arc, it's a brilliant, brilliant arc this year, really open. We've obviously 2 brilliant 3-year-olds from the same yard taking each other on. We've Aidan with Snowfall, Tarnawa, who I think is probably a dodgy enough favourite, to be honest. I think I think she might be a small bit vulnerable, but we'll see. What is the betting anyway?
Yeah, you can see the price just scrolling along down the bottom. We're 94 Tarnawa at the moment, Johnny. Adiyar obviously confirmed William Buick will ride the Derby winners 11-4. We're 5-1 Snowfall. Hurricane Lane now 6-1 the English Ledger winner, and we're 10s bar at the moment. I can see all the money coming for Tarnawa. I think she's going to be very popular, particularly in Irish shops anyway.
What are you liking it, Fran?
I'd be very happy to wait until the day and see what the ground does, because as you know, Longchamp, when it gets soft, can get pretty testing. Also want to see if there's going to be a slip rail like they had last year and the year before. That can often have a bearing on the way the races run. But if it's a back one now, it's very hard to see away from Adiyar and Snowfall, the 2 3-year-old classic winners, getting the weight for age. Hurricane Lane, it's a quick turnaround from the Ledger. He had a hard race, but Adiyar ticks a lot of boxes. Beating Mishriff was ultra impressive, and him or Snowfall would probably be the 2 I'll be looking at.
And you must be delighted, Johnny Mack, just the makeup of the race. There's so many angles for anyone who wants to bet in it.
Yeah, definitely, Johnny. It's going to be a strong bet. We'll lay them all. But definitely the Irish angle, Tarnawa will be very popular. Being an Irish bookmaker, she'll be the worst result, I'd imagine. Myself, I like Adiyar. I look back at the Derby again earlier and the King George. I think that form, both those runs, are head and shoulders above what the others. Getting that age allowance as well, I think he's going to be really hard to beat.
Yeah, you'd imagine that age allowance has been so key down the years in winning the R. Thank you, Johnny Mack. And Fran, where are you the rest of the week?
I am in Cork tomorrow. I'll be looking forward to seeing Queenship in the ring, and then busy for the rest of the week off to Killarney on the weekend after Dundalk. So yeah, plenty on and plenty to look forward to.
And Fran, in fairness to him, he did actually say before Luxembourg's run at the weekend that he had opposed him based on looks. Sometimes, Fran, if you double up on something when you're wrong and tell the story again, it makes you kind of seem more humble. Is that the kind of vibe you're going for there?
Oh, very much so. I'm lucky to go racing, and I often back horses the night before or in the morning, and then you get to race and said, "Lord, what have I done?" Because you see them in the ring, particularly maidens. So why not make use of it? Doesn't always work though, Johnny, as was clearly illustrated the other day.
Yeah, so you just imagine if Fran is opposing this horse as a 2-year-old, just imagine how good he could be physically as a 3-year-old. I think he's massively, massively exciting, and it was an extraordinary performance in so many ways. Thanks a million to the lads for coming on, and mainly thanks to Aidan O'Brien to take a call in his car and to go through the runners like that. That was a special episode of On the Wire. Whatever you're backing in the Arc, be lucky. Visit the Bar One website for the various specials, and we'll be back next week. Thanks a million, lads.
This is On the Wire, Racing TV's podcast for the best racing previews in association with Bar One Racing.